Hi everyone, it's Hans here, the founder of Cappuccino, and welcome back for Series 3 of Flat Whites and Insights, sponsored by SPA Advisory. We're here for some open, honest and vulnerable conversations held over a beautiful cup of coffee, and they're coming from my home, so I'll be providing the flat whites, and my guests, they'll be providing the insights. So grab a coffee for yourselves, take a moment, and I hope you enjoy this latest conversation. Thank you, take care, and enjoy. Ryan,
Hello,
morning.
good morning.
Cheers for taking the time to come on, have a bit of a chat, join me on Flat Whites and Insights. And I'm looking forward to this conversation. I mean, we're both based fairly locally.
Yeah.
We both seem to be similar passions. I mean, both have a love for football and mental health awareness.
100%.
I know you're doing a lot with Aberdeen United. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
But it was only recently that we actually met for the first time at one of your sessions. But
Yeah.
for those who don't know who you are, don't know about his mind, are you right to give like a brief introduction? Just kind of set.
Yeah. To be honest, a brief introduction for me is very rarely brief.
That's all right, no worries.
There's a lot of layers to me as a person, but long story short, I'm quite passionate about mental health because of some things that I've experienced. I grew up in a very toxic environment. I was born in Luton, Lucy Farm in particular.
Yeah.
It was a very, I don't like the word disadvantaged, but it was a disadvantaged neighborhood. I don't quite know what word I would use instead, but there were problems there with poverty and crime and all those things. And then when you grow up around that, you develop this, what you believe to be resilience, but really it's not resilience at all. It's more about ignoring things because you're not allowed to talk, you're not allowed to open up. And then when I become an adult, at 21 years old, I suffered a brain injury, ended up in a coma. I woke up from that and my friend put her arms around me and she kissed me on the head and she said, "I'm there for you," or something like that, or "She loves me," or something. I can't remember the right words because I just woke up from a coma.
Yeah, that's it.
But I remember in that moment thinking to myself, you know what, I'm not okay. I kind of need to talk more. So I kind of went on this little path of understanding myself a bit more, and then in 2021,
Yeah.
I had my first proper relationship, and then it ended up in a breakup because I wasn't quite ready for that. And then I was looking around for all these services, support, what's available. There weren't nothing for men. And I didn't want anything clinical.
Yeah.
So I decided to set something up myself. In March 2022, the one moment I remember specifically is walking into this village hall. We had East Challow Village Hall, and thinking, yeah, this is where I want to set up for our little drop-ins. And then we did that. So March 14th was our first drop-in, and then from there we've had moments where we've stepped back a bit, moments where we've changed things because I work full-time elsewhere, so giving time to this can be quite difficult and challenging, as I'm sure you understand. But we've now got a football team, which is of course where we met, and we do our football drop-in sessions, and we continue to advocate, and I suppose signpost as well is something we do quite prominently. But more than anything, it is about raising awareness and advocating for men and ensuring that they know that this is a safe space for them to come and chat to us, and then advocate for them in a way that people can look at it and think, you know what, maybe men do need to talk, and maybe as a man I can be that person that they talk to. So yeah, there's many different layers to me, but I suppose that's long story short.
Yeah.
Very, very short, but it's part of who I am and where I'm at.
No, of course, no, amazing, and it's incredible just hearing you kind of relay that, hearing about like that, as you say, to kind of get up and these spaces aren't here, so I'm going to go and create something for other people.
Yeah.
And I guess for young people or young guys wanting then not to maybe feel there's no services in the same way that you felt, or myself, like we had a very different upbringing, should I say, in terms of obviously you're talking about where you grew up. So when I went to school, I was in an all boys school, but it was like a grammar school. But I was in an area where a lot of like quite well off people, like Buckinghamshire, everything like that. But still, like from school we were never told about talking, and it was very much, you know, you're here to achieve, you're here to go do this. We don't want excuses and things like that. And again, I was 22, so obviously similar age you mentioned where you had the brain injury, and I was 22 when I was kind of introduced to mental health, and just kind of had to. But something that's interesting is you mentioned that friend kind of putting her arms around you and saying, "I'm there for you." Like, do you feel that was maybe one of the first times someone had really said that you'd felt that kind of open affection, if that makes sense?
Yeah, somewhat. I think there's always been similar, particularly within my friendship circle. But this perhaps was one of the first times I accepted it.
Yeah,
Or even
that's the hard
recognised
bit,
it. Yeah, I think what you mentioned around your upbringing, it highlights that there's similarities in every walk of life, and it's that we all feel emotions, we all feel difficult days, and we all experience these feelings that put us in a position of questioning who we are, the identity that we hold. And this moment where I thought to myself, I'm not all right, I need to address it, that was a development of my identity where I wasn't this, council estate boy, traditional, cocky, arrogant, you could argue, but really I'm a scared little child who's feeling vulnerable. And then you mask it, hood up, hat on, I still do the same now, I'll be real.
Yeah.
And
it's almost like a defense. Sometimes it's like that defense mechanism, isn't it?
100%.
Of like,
100%.
I'm tough, I can handle this, I can...
100%. And I work with children now and I see it all the time with the balaclavas, hoods up, all that. But this moment with my friend perhaps wasn't the first moment of affection or, I suppose, physical connection, but it was certainly one of the first moments I remember acknowledging it and it kind of having that effect where I thought to myself, I need to do something.
Yeah.
Because something ain't right.
No.
It was certainly an interesting moment.
Yeah. It's not, I can think of similar for myself. It was that when I realised it. For me, it was probably, so I was going to be doing a PhD, and I was in my head, I was like, this is what I want to do, and I was an achiever. That was my identity. It was like, I'm this academic, I'm smart, I'm, you know, going to go on and achieve big things, and I was being driven by like that result or the image of that, rather than was I actually loving what I was doing. And it was then when I quit the PhD for my mental health, the big moment for me was telling friends, family, and them saying, that's cool, we still love you, we still whatever, like, because in my head I'd built up like, I've been lying to them, they're going to think that I'm a failure, they're going to think this and that, and so yeah, that moment of then realising, oh, okay, I can be vulnerable, and actually I can ask for help and I can ask for that support.
Yeah, I think that's very important. I've never really had that with my family. My granddad was the first man to ever ask me how I am and kind of really mean, how are you?
Yeah.
There's maybe a few teachers when I was in primary school back in Luton and then after that in Milton Keynes, but the first one I really remember was my granddad, and it's weird because he took his own life in 2022, and when I look back on the relationship I had with him, it wasn't in any way a vulnerable relationship, but there was strength in that connection because we had football. So football was everything for me. He would come and watch me play football. I played for Luton Borough Dragons up in Stopsley. He would come and watch me. And that, to me, was the connection with family that was telling me I can be vulnerable, but I didn't quite understand how to be vulnerable. So instead it was just displayed in anger and being frustrated, whether it was on the pitch or off the pitch. And my granddad always seemed to understand that, which I found quite amazing. But I suppose the sad thing is I didn't recognise this until after he'd passed away. It's amazing what grief can do, but family are such an important aspect of our life, good, bad, positive, negative. There always is that influence, and for me it's a weird dynamic when I look back, 100%.
No. And again, it's obviously sorry to hear about the loss of your granddad, and I believe that's inspired some of the kit as well, isn't it? On the in his mind, was it Dave?
Yeah, 100%.
So I know when we play, like you got the name on the shirt, still a man, and then the Samaritan's number, which is powerful. I found that very powerful when I saw that. Yeah,
it's something I wanted to do a bit different because when you've got charity matches and different players playing, you can't always have set numbers in it. So instead of having numbers and names on the back of shirts, I thought we'd just do the Samaritan's number.
Yeah.
And we put it out on Instagram and Samaritan responded, and that was actually really cool. But yeah, Dave on the right or left sleeve. It's on one of them.
Yeah.
That was my granddad's name, of course. Well, his name is David, but everyone called him Dave. And we are in the process of trying to set up an annual football match or something, just kind of in his memory. So he is a massive influence, and it's unfortunate because I always wanted to tell him about his mind, but with my family being the way that they were and still are in ways, it was almost, well, I can't talk about it. And I wanted to get it in a position where it was more than just an idea.
Yeah.
And we had our drop-ins, and we had a couple of drop-ins, and then I wanted to kind of build up to know what the direction is, and then talk to my granddad. But he took his own life before that, so I never got the chance to talk about him with it. But because of that connection I had with him through football, it felt only right having his name on the sleeve.
Shirts,
And it's good as well because people ask, what's that?
Yeah,
Who is
exactly.
that? Why is Dave on your sleeve? And some people can be a bit, I suppose, ignorant in a way of finding it humorous that you got the name Dave on your sleeve, but it's never in a malicious way because they don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's nice as well because it gives me a reason to talk and celebrate my granddad. So
I love that. Yeah, it almost gives
massive
it a way
influence.
to bring that into the
100%.
conversation, and as part of the His Mind story, like it's part of you, it's
100%.
part of your story, and for those who come along and play, like I mean, we obviously had that game. It was a decent game against that as at AS Academy. I was still hobbling around for it after I came off injured. It took me about a week and a half. I was
that was
hobbling.
That was a good game, and it was nice to just. The reason I set up the football team is, you mentioned earlier about the link we've got with Aberdeen United, and you've got your links to your clubs as well. And I hadn't played football in ages because of my brain injury. I'm not technically allowed to head the ball and stuff. So one day I just thought, you know what, I need to do something. And I thought I'd set up a little football team 5-a-side, and we're still trying to find consistency with players and
we were saying before we jumped on the call, it's difficult. It is difficult.
It's difficult, it's challenging, but we'll continue to offer it out. And last season we were supported by Soho Housing, who gave us a nice little donation that helped us fund the matches, so that we don't have to charge our players for it. And it was just nice to be out playing football again. I get injured a lot as well. Broken finger. Possible meniscus tear in my knee. Because I broke my foot, my toe when I was playing football when I was younger, and never allowed myself to recover because I was just eager and keen to get out there. And now I'm dealing with that. But I've got an osteopath who's my boxing coach. We've been doing a few things, and my injuries have disappeared, but then possible meniscus tear, or if not that, there is an injury to my knee that is taking a bit of a time to recover. So
I was saying, because that was from that game, because that was probably like a month or so ago now, was it?
Yeah, and it was about a week before that, and despite the injuries and despite the fatigue, just being out on the pitch 11-a-side again, the pitch was confusing. It was a bit weird, innit? Yeah, you had blue lines,
all the markings on it,
for the NFL games and stuff, and it was weird, but it was just nice to be
just
out.
Playing out 11-a-side again. It's just something different to just being out on the pitch.
And I think we did well, given that it was 5 minutes before the game that our team met for the first time.
Exactly, yeah.
So given that, it was positive, and I don't know if I played well. I might have had a poor game. I got an assist though, I think, in a couple of moments, but my fitness.
That's when you find it. The fitness.
I managed in 90 minutes though.
Exactly. No, it's good, and like you say, it's the just being out there playing
it's
again.
It's the experience, isn't it?
And for allowing other people to have that experience, and I noticed in the team there was quite a few young guys.
Yeah.
And I think for those youngsters as well, having someone like yourself who's having this conversation, whether they engage with that explicitly, but just being surrounded by it and understanding that that support is there should they feel that they want it.
100%. I work with children. That's my day job. I don't work locally, but I have worked locally before, and with supporting children, particularly as a man, it's tough because I've had a lot of professionals come to me and say this boy could do with a male role model, this boy could do with a male worker, but it's not that simple because there's the ego, there's there's that pride in teenage boys in particular where they're almost challenging to be the alpha.
Yeah,
But
so
it's not.
to have someone else,
Yeah.
they might initially see it as, oh, this is just another person trying to tell me what to do,
Yeah,
and that
yeah.
maybe is, they see that as maybe, I don't know, a conflict with like the relationship with male figures they've had before in their life.
100%, and they kind of see it as a challenge. And with that, I've almost had to work extra hard and share my own vulnerabilities and talk to them on a level that they understand, but in a way that protects me, protects them, but also isn't fabricated. And the boys we have in our team, one-to-one, we'll have conversations. Of course, I won't share what is between us, but we do have conversations, and they do come to me for whether it's advice about school, advice about family, friends, whatever. I think having that space is great, and we lose pretty much every game. As we were saying just before, we don't have a defender, we don't have a keeper.
Yeah.
So we're scratching the bottom of the barrel every match, trying to find somebody to cover positions, and that in itself is challenging. But the boys turn up every week, out of the house, kick a ball about, have a laugh. I'm very competitive, so for those 30 minutes, I am angry and annoyed that we're not playing well. But well, we do play well. We're just not winning because we haven't got that solid defence at the back. And give them their dues. Everyone who plays tries their absolute best, and coming back week in, week out, it's something that is very important, particularly for those teenage boys, especially being 16 years old, dealing with the pressures of GCSEs and just having that space to get out and have a kick about,
it's that,
have a laugh
that release, like you're saying,
100%.
just regardless of result, getting out there, coming back, and the fact, as you say, that they are coming back shows that they're getting something from it.
Yeah, and I think for me, providing that space is something I take pride in. I find it hard to be proud of myself, I'll be real, because of my own journey with my own development.
I can relate, different journeys, but I think, I don't know if it's something, and I don't know, college of people who've had their struggles, like mental health, but even people sometimes ask me, oh, you're doing this, like you're working full time, you're sponsoring these football clubs, you're doing a podcast, you're putting these conversations, and there's part of me which is always like, needing to show my worth, needing to, whether that's to myself, it comes from my upbringing. So my parents split when I was about 10, and mum had two sisters, so it was like mum at home by herself. She was quite senior in like some accountancy firm, so she had a very busy job, and so there was never time at home for how are you feeling, there was never time for feeling. It was just dinner on the table. We didn't always sit down and eat dinner together, so I've never really felt unconditional love. It was there, similar to yourself, saying that probably the affection was there, but you just didn't feel it. Like, so I think even now, like in work or whatever I'm doing, I'm like, oh, I need to show people that I'm good enough and stuff, and that's trying to unlearn that, but it's difficult when that's what you've grown up in. It shapes you
fully, and I've struggled with pride a lot, and it is difficult, but knowing that this football team is something I set up, I even made the badge, and everything in itself has been done by me, and that is something I can be proud of. But I know in myself that the way that I operate is, if I need a solution, I'll find it. If there ain't one to find, I'll make it. So I create things, I make things happen. That's how I like to be, and with that, I'm always on the go, which has its pros, of course, but the cons with that come from the fact that I'm always trying to do more, always trying to be better, always trying to achieve more, and with that, I then find myself in this constant state of, I suppose, fight. You got that fight or flight stuff with the sympathetic nervous system, and how that gears up our body ready to engage or run.
And sort of like the adrenaline's always going.
And that adrenaline rush always has me just, I suppose, riddled with anxiety, but I manage it by just doing and getting things done. But then in itself, that can come with a clash internally, because I'm then challenging myself to be better than I was yesterday, but then my anxiety is there because of what am I going to be tomorrow. So that fight or flight is always
I saw you shared something, was it about fight and then rest and digest, and I think I can relate. Like, I struggle to rest. I really struggle to rest. My mind is busy, always busy, and I think it's sometimes I'll struggle going to sleep because I'm already thinking about what I need to do tomorrow and things like that. But
I'm the same. I've got a diagnosis of ADHD. Well, I wasn't diagnosed until I was 26,
yeah,
which was a late diagnosis, but it answered so many questions, and I'm learning a lot now about how that works for me. And in the last 3 years, for example, I've had 3 different relationships. I've all broken down with 3 different women. And I recognize that I can hold my faults to myself. I can hold myself accountable. But when I do that, what then happens is I start to struggle with my own identity even more. But then I look into ADHD, and there's a thing, I think it's called rejection sensitivity dysphoria, which heightens your emotions whenever you feel rejected. So learning about my ADHD has taught me a lot about the way I interact with people, the relationships I build, the relationships I develop.
yeah.
But it is that constant 100 miles per hour in my head where I'm just here, there and everywhere, and then physically I feel like I've got to keep up, which is why I'm always on the go, getting my 10, 15,000 steps in a day. Struggling with my knees, struggling with my ankles, but I can't stop. Innit?
Yeah, like you say, even about that with like the bit of injuries and still wanted to play the game. I think I remember you saying to me before the game, you're like, oh, with my knee, I probably shouldn't be playing, but you're like, especially for yourself when, you know, this fixture and it's something you are proud of.
Yeah.
There was no way you weren't going to be out there on the pitch.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I thought I was going to do first half, jumping goal. I ended up running the full 90 minutes and on the left wing as well against a really quick right back. And I had a few moments where I felt like I'd done something right. But you know what? I've clocked down my highlights player. You know those players that you watch them for the whole game, they don't do much, but watch them on YouTube, they're amazing. That's the kind of player I am.
I can think of a few, I can think of a lot of them. Yeah.
I have a few moments where I'll go past the player, I'll make a turn, I'll make a pass, do a bit of skill, but across the whole game, I'm
put together a package,
I'm not as involved as I used to be, but I used to have a lot more pace. I was very quick, so
that's it though, being able to do the run in, come back, tracking.
Yeah, 100%. Give me the ball, I'd run past someone, score it, no stress. But now it's just my body's not as sharp as it used to be because of my knee injuries. I'm worried about turning too quick and kicking the ball too heavy. So yeah, I was always going to play that game.
This series of Flat Whites and Insights is sponsored by SP8 Advisory. They specialise in corporate, employment and personal taxation with over 8 years experience between Big Four and industry, and they can support both businesses and individuals with their tax affairs. You've just got to visit spa8advisory.co.uk to find out more, and that link will be in the information for this podcast. I know Stuart really well. He's a close friend and he's very, very good at what he does, so I can only recommend the service. Thanks. Now let's get back to Flat Whites and Insights.
There was no way at all I wasn't going to play in that, but I did not expect to play the full 90.
No.
But we did it.
Yeah, amazing.
We got through it. We got through
it was good. But something I did kind of want to ask about, because I've not been to one myself, so the His Mind kind of drop-ins. Obviously, conversations are for people with the same space, but whereabouts are they? Are they still kind of going on now?
We've stopped doing them for a bit because when we were doing them at the community centre in Didcot, and then elections came about and they obviously had to use that space. We had a few weeks without it, and then we tried to adapt and do different things in different spaces, and it's been very eye-opening because I think that when you look at particularly men, it's hard to create a space for them to come and sit and talk.
Yeah, no, I agree.
We have loads of people say, oh, I'll pop down and we'll be there, and it's great to hear that, but then they won't actually show up. So it's kind of led us to adapting, which is why we now do the football drop-ins, because it then gives them something to do.
An activity, isn't it? And then the conversations happen around the activity.
100%.
We've similar with day job with like Barks and Bucks, and trying to do maybe like increase that conversation around. And the football is we know we have that platform to get people to come down and an interest, but yeah, it's just really difficult to. Even we did a session at Didcot Town, so one of the clubs that I'm involved with, and it was like a mindful mate session. So had it was cool, like the chairman was there, some of the volunteers, some fans, and like Restore, the charity, came down and spoke about it. But you know, had lots of people saying, oh yeah, interested, you get there in the evening, and you're like, you know, it was about to
Yeah.
start, and I was a bit like,
Where is
anyone else coming through the door? But
Yeah.
but the people who were there had a really, really powerful experience and
Yeah.
engaging. But
Yeah.
but I have to accept, like, for me, I have to put myself back to when I was 22, and before I burnt out, and before I kind of had to then go on and do some therapy, etc. Like, I wouldn't have gone to one of those things.
Yeah, we had a few people turn up and it was great, and we weren't quite in a position where we could do proper work with them. We weren't quite set up in a way for that. So again, just for purposes of safeguarding, we had to step back because we couldn't say for certain we can protect these people when they leave those doors.
Yes,
Because we can talk to them, that's great, we can signpost them, but once they walk out those doors, whatever happens, we could be the last people to see them, and it then falls on us to ensure that they're safe. And it's a lot harder to safeguard adults than it is to safeguard children, because children have school, they have family, they have parents and people that see them, whereas adults can live alone and may not be working. So kind of had to step back for those reasons as well, whilst we work out how to bring something in, which is why the football was that happy balance almost, because it's not being sold as a mental health support, if you know what I mean. We're kind of saying, let's get out of the house, tackle loneliness, come have
exactly.
kick about. And we have had some great conversations in our drop-ins, and I'd like to think that they've been impactful. If they have, great. If they haven't, then it just wasn't the right time for them, and maybe we weren't the right service for them, and that's okay. But we do have plans to bring in more things like that. It's just about finding the time more than anything.
Yeah, finding the time.
Yeah, 100%.
No, it's amazing though. It's cool. It's for me as well. Like, coming to the area, it's amazing seeing. Obviously, there's a number of football clubs that are kind of starting to keep the conversation going. Abingdon, Milton, Didcot. I'm sure there are others doing things as well. And to have those spaces in the local area, so it's certainly something. I don't know. Moving forward, if there's opportunities to link up or support with what's going on, I think that'd be
100%,
awesome. But,
100%. I've got so many plans, dreams, aspirations, long term. I'll put it out there. Long term, I want a bus, and I want to be able to do mobile support. That'd be amazing.
So would that be like almost going to, like, just setting up somewhere, I mean, I'm thinking like it's festival season. People even just have like a stall or have a presence and just be like.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, there's an organisation in London called United Borders, and they've effectively got a youth club on the bus, which is great in London because you can put a youth club in Borough A, children from Borough B can't attend because of conflicts and stuff. So that for me is a really good way of adapting, and I would love to. I've always just wanted to drive a bus, basically. I'm looking for an excuse to drive a bus, and I want to do that. But now there's other things beyond that we want to do and make happen, and I want to continue supporting children and continue offering something for men. I want to get into schools, prisons, all those things, and do the work with the people, because I think that's where the work is.
It's the people, and the people's situation doesn't define them as well.
100%.
So I think it's a big thing. Like, you can, I think you said earlier on about someone, you can have totally different upbringings, totally different things, but we're all people experiencing challenges, emotions, and one thing we did recently with work is we've done some work with HMP Aylesbury. So we went in, like, a few of us, played a game. They got a pitch in there. We played like a 11-a-side against some of the inmates. But then, what was really powerful to me was then we were talking at the end, chatting before leaving, and one of them, it was a really hot day. It was a sunny day. We did the full 90. At the end, one of them did say, he was like, that's the longest I've been outside in the sun for 3 years. And I was just like, wow, that hit me, because obviously I realised then how lucky I am just to be able to go and play football or to be able to, have a chat and stuff. And so obviously that was mad. And actually, from chatting to some of them, and it was really interesting because they were asking a few of them, like, oh, what was your perception of what it's going to be like in here? And then just asking, and you had these conversations, and I don't know what they've done, why they're in there, but it almost wasn't important, because what's important is the,
Yeah, I think the important thing is I work with children that have not necessarily acted the right way
Yeah.
in many situations, and from doing that you recognise first and foremost they're children, and you get them playing a PS5, Xbox. They are doing the same things a normal child who goes to school every day, grade A student, whatever, because children are children, right?
Yeah.
But then if the children don't get that right support, if they don't get that right prevention or intervention, they don't get that right space to then help them develop their identity, they then become the adults who are expected to have everything figured out.
Yeah.
But not everybody has everything figured out. And then when we find ourselves in a position where we're imprisoning people who have made a mistake, okay, there's consequences, actions, of course, but again, we have to remember they are human beings, and the minute we remove that humanity from them, it's a very important essence of our character, and then once you remove that, you remove hope, and if we ain't got hope, we've got nothing. So I think having spaces to play football and spaces to just talk or get them out of their cells, off their wings in the open space, in the sun, is such an important
Yeah.
thing to offer, because the services are very stretched. There's not a lot that is going well in those sorts of services, unfortunately, and it's affecting people and impacting their mental health as well.
Yeah.
And it's certainly a strange dynamic, because they can recognise their mental health, but you're in prison. You've got to be that sort of resilient, stereotypical, hard nut to crack type thing, isn't it? So it's certainly an aspect of society that I want to approach and get into 100%.
Yeah, no, that's definitely, and that experience was very eye opening for me. I'd never been in an environment like that before, and I think one of the things I left thinking, having chatted to some of the guys and how much they'd enjoyed that experience, and one of the things I really left thinking was what support is there for like their mental health, and you don't know that while people are in there, you're talking about this, we want them to come out and this restorative kind of thing, but it must be so difficult on your mental health, and as you say, there's consequences to actions, but that doesn't mean that like necessarily you shouldn't be helping support people kind of come out the other side, and I think that was very eye opening. So
100%,
amazing, and I think like the work you do, and I even saw just kind of through the session that the kickabout came to, and in the game, like some of the young kids, I don't know them, I don't know their circumstance, but just seeing the relationship we're doing, and again you say about it's hard for you to feel proud of yourself, but certainly a lot of reason to.
No, I appreciate that, and it's so obviously I mentioned earlier where I grew up, and I grew up in a very weird environment, and it had a huge impact on the person that I thought I was. And then from there, I mean, I left school when I was 12 years old, got into a lot of trouble, done some things that I wouldn't say that I'm proud of, but done some things that had an impact on me and taught me from consequences, and being in the position I'm in now, I want to be able to give that support to people that never quite had it, and I think that's where I'm at with everything. So supporting teenagers and children with things that I never had help with but needed help with, but then also supporting men with things that I needed help with, and in some ways still do need help with, and we're all on that journey, innit? And I'm 28 years old, I'm still learning who I am as a person, still getting it wrong. But that's okay.
100%.
Yeah.
That's such an important point I think you've raised as well, is that people might maybe be watching this, listening to this, thinking, oh, they're sitting here, they got it figured out there. It's never like that's all for me. Then it's like I say, it's reminders to myself sometimes when I'm doing this podcast or have this platform. I talk a lot about self-care is not selfish yet. I openly admit, like it's similar to yourself, I struggle with that resting. I think I saw something yesterday and it related to me, was that rest, you burn out when rest is seen as a reward rather than a right. And I think that's where I struggle. Often I'm like, I'll do this, then I'll rest. But then by the time I've done it all, I'm on to the next thing, and it's just...
I think our relationship with self-care is personal as well, and I know at one point in my life a success was just waking up and brushing my teeth. I can celebrate that, and now I do that every day, and because if I didn't, my dentist would be very angry with me. And my friend actually manages the dentist surgery, so she will keep reminding me of things. So there's it's amazing how life turns
like you
out.
say, it's that perspective, isn't it? And those situations, I think, I was speaking to a colleague recently and about when I look back at the person or the situation I was in when I was in maybe my darkest times, my lowest times, similar, like getting out of bed was, if I got out of bed that day, that was a good day. And I almost feel like maybe it's like third person, I feel like I'm looking at someone else. And that I guess would be a message to anyone, like whatever situation you're in does not define you. It's you know, it's not necessarily the way it's going to be, but
we need to celebrate our small victories, and if that's brushing your teeth, getting out of bed, it could be hoovering once a month, it could be anything you want it to be. It could even be just applying for a job, not even getting a job, or accepting that things ain't great for you at the moment. There's small victories in everything. And I remember after my brain injury, I was in rehab for 2 months, and I was assessed making a cup of tea. And as I pick up the kettle full of boiling water, my hand was shaking. It was too heavy for me to lift. Because I just had quite significant brain surgery. And now when I make a cup of tea, you know what, this is a massive thing for me. Something I'm really, really thankful for. And even just waking up in the morning, you ask anyone who knows me, I'm not a positive person. I'm not. I always get labelled as a pessimist. I still argue I'm a realist. But I do try and promote positivity. I just can't always live it. But there's so many things I'm thankful for, and so many things I appreciate that, you know what, I have my own struggles, I have my own difficulties, and every day is a challenge. Every day I feel like I'm fighting. Every day I feel like I'm knackered all the time. But every day I'm waking up and I've got the luxury of getting out and experiencing fresh air and making myself a cup of tea, picking up bottles of water, and we've got to be thankful for those things. And
amazing.
It's part of life, isn't it?
Yeah.
We get it wrong, we get it right. We've got to live and learn.
Amazing, 100%. And there's a question I ask everyone. I feel like you've kind of touched on things of that about gratitude and things, but just to finish off, mate, I just want to ask what happiness means to you.
I want it to be ambiguous, so I don't think that happiness is a definite. I suppose I don't think there's a definite answer to what is happiness, because I want it to be ambiguous. I don't think it's a destination. I think it's just part of the journey, and you have to experience the sadness to know what happiness is. You have to experience loss to know what gain is. And I've experienced a lot of loss in my life, a lot of grief, and a lot of sadness, a lot of troubles. But happiness for me is part of the journey, innit? And I don't want to sit and say that I am a happy person. I don't want to sit and say that I'm a sad person. I'm just I'm floating. But I recognise what can make me happy, and just sitting out in the rain can make me happy. I've got a cup of tea and I'm out in the rain and it's kind of silent, but I can hear the raindrops and there's no people about. That can bring me comfort, and then there's happiness within comfort. So it's an ambiguous word with many connotations. I think it's attached to different things. I don't think it is a definitive destination or has any definitive or defining qualities. I think it's everything and nothing. It's imperfect but perfect. It's whatever you want it to be. And I want it to be nothing but everything. So that's where I'm at with it.
Amazing. Love that. And I think so true when you say about happy person, sad person, everyone experiences happiness, everyone experiences sadness. And so it's that's where maybe sometimes people struggle if they start to feel sad about something and then they almost don't want to feel sad, so they beat themselves up for feeling sad and but emotions are there, you know, as a compass sometimes is what we say. Like they tell you there's a reason you're feeling sad, but that's okay. But as you say, you've got to have that, and the lows really make you appreciate the highs. It's so true. And I think that, and sometimes I do have to step back, put myself in perspective of, hang on, I'm getting worked up about this, but 5 years ago, a bit longer than that now, there were days I didn't want to be here. So I've just got to think, the fact that I'm up here and I'm wanting to fight to be here and be a better me is amazing. But really appreciate it, mate.
No worries.
It's been a pleasure. And
I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, look forward to getting the kit on again at the got a tournament coming up as well. So
we've got a few things lined up. Yeah. But no, I appreciate you taking time to invite me down and have a chat. And it's excuse me, it's very helpful, and I appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing how it's come
anyone
out.
who's looking to encourage those spaces and men having the conversation, I mean, it's something I want to get behind. So
Fully, it's important. I
Awesome.
appreciate it.
thank you so much for tuning in to this latest episode of Flat Whites and Insights, and I really hope you gained something from that conversation, because I know I certainly did. It would mean a lot if you can like or subscribe on whatever platform you may be watching or listening on, and please do share this podcast with any friends or family or anyone you know that you think might benefit from having a listen. Also, if you can head over to Instagram and give Cappuccino a follow, that's where you'll find the latest updates as we look to raise awareness of mental health through my passions for football and coffee. And I'm always open to people getting in touch if you want to have a conversation, collaborate, or even come on the podcast yourself. The support means a lot, and I'm very grateful. Thanks so much again, and I hope to see you soon.